Welcome to our podcast session. Today we're diving into the resurrection narratives across the Gospels, especially the intriguing reimagining in John.
I'm totally intrigued by how John's account stands apart from the others. What stands out to you the most?
Well, it's fascinating how John's version completely reinvents the resurrection. Unlike Mark's abrupt ending, John unfolds the event as a series of divine revelations.
Yeah,
It's almost like a cosmic unveiling rather than a mere return from the dead.
right. Mark leaves us with fear and silence, a very raw, early glimpse of the mystery.
Exactly. Mark's gospel is stark. The women find the empty tomb and then vanish into the background. There's no fully manifested risen Jesus. Scholars even call it the earliest resurrection story that demands faith without tangible proof.
And then comes Matthew and Luke, who transform that narrative completely. Matthew turns the scene into a dramatic, almost apocalyptic spectacle.
Yep, Matthew adds all that divine show. An earthquake, an angel, guards so frozen they seem, paralyzed by divine might. And Luke, on the other hand, grounds it by insisting on bodily proof. Jesus eating with his disciples and all that, to counter any idea of a mere spirit being.
So it's like Mark gives us a mystery, Matthew gives us a blockbuster event, and Luke gives us the solid, down-to-earth details.
Exactly. And here's where John really shakes things up. His account isn't about proving a physical resurrection, but about revealing a deeper mystical truth.
Yeah.
In John, the narrative is less concerned with historical appearances and more with unveiling divine identity.
I've noticed that too. John focuses on moments like the encounter with Mary Magdalene. That shift is really interesting, don't you think?
Absolutely. In John, Mary Magdalene isn't just one of several women. She becomes the first to encounter the risen Lord. She even mistakes him for a gardener at first. And that moment of being recognized when he calls Mary
Right.
is laden with symbolism. It's almost as if her role is being elevated to that of an apostle.
It really redefines both her and what resurrection means. But I do wonder, doesn't this shift downplay the communal aspect of faith found in the Synoptics?
That's a fair critique. John's focus is more on the inner, personal revelation, a kind of mystical recognition, than on a collective transformation. But this was very deliberate. The Johannine community, having faced expulsion and crisis, needed a narrative that gave comfort through personal divine encounter.
So it's sort of a theological rebranding to empower a community in its moment of crisis.
Exactly. There are at least three big forces at work here. First, we see theological evolution. By the time John's Gospel was written, Christianity had morphed from an apocalyptic sect into a cosmic, almost philosophical religion. The Logos, the Word becoming flesh, is the central idea.
Yes, it underscores that Jesus was divine from the start. It's less about coming back and more about being revealed.
Absolutely. And then there's the community crisis element. The Johannine Christians, feeling isolated and even persecuted, needed a story that offered a kind of spiritual intimacy, a connection with a Jesus who really met them where they were, behind locked doors and all that.
Kind of like comfort food for the soul in a time of real hardship.
Right. And that ties in with the literary competition, too. John wasn't shy about rewriting the tradition. Scholars like C.K. Barrett noted that John's version intentionally contradicts the older synoptic traditions. It doesn't just add details, it overturns the established narrative to assert a theological, almost superior truth.
That's a bold move. But, isn't there a risk there of alienating those who trusted the earlier accounts?
True, there's certainly a tension, and I think John was aware of that. But his objective was clear. It's not a historical account in the conventional sense, but a theological statement. In John's world, resurrection isn't about physical reanimation. It's about the unveiling of Jesus' divine nature.
Yes, exactly. And that brings us to the role of Thomas, doesn't it? In John's narrative, Thomas becomes the emblem of the believer who needs inner revelation rather than concrete proof.
Yes, exactly. Thomas, or Doubting Thomas as he's often called, is transformed into a symbol for us, the readers, the seekers. When Jesus says, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe," it's totally a redefinition of what genuine faith means.
It's quite a philosophical challenge to ordinary expectations of proof and evidence.
Exactly. It's like John essentially says, look, you don't need to be a detective. Your inner vision is enough. It's a shift from a forensic, historical analysis to an experience of the divine.
That's a profound reimagining of what a resurrection can be. But I'm curious, doesn't that mystify the event a bit too much for some readers?
That's a good point. It can feel almost like an oversimplification, taking an event traditionally understood as historical and converting it into something more abstract, almost like a vision quest. Yet that was likely what the Johannine audience needed, a narrative that spoke directly to inner spiritual struggles amid external crises.
Yeah, I see it that way too. The narrative transforms from a debate about the physical resurrection into a statement about inexplicable divine presence.
Spot on. And there's also this literary flair in comparing John's resurrection scenes to Homeric epics, almost like how gods reveal themselves in classic literature. Dennis MacDonald even draws parallels between John's gardener scene and Homer's stories, where divine figures are recognized in subtle ways.
Yep. That analogy really spins the idea, doesn't it? It turns the resurrection into a narrative about inner sight, where physical appearances take a back seat to spiritual revelation.
Exactly. And if we look at the evolution overall, the Synoptics versus John, we have 4 different portrayals of Jesus in resurrection. Mark is about absence and mystery. Matthew builds a dramatic divine display. Luke insists on the historical bodily presence. And John transcends it all with a mystical, eternal perspective.
Truly. It's like each gospel rewrites the same event to address the needs and crises of its own community.
Absolutely. It's rewriting, it's rebirth, a constant reinvention. As Harold Attridge said, in John, resurrection isn't so much proof of divinity as it is the unveiling of what Jesus always was, a fully divine essence that, permanently changed the meaning of resurrection.
That makes me wonder, if resurrection is reinterpreted with every generation, isn't there a risk of diluting its original impact?
I actually think the opposite. Each retelling deepens our understanding. It's like an heirloom passed down and polished by time. Sure, some might argue it strays too far from the original miracle, but maybe the original story was never static to begin with.
Interesting perspective. I might challenge that a bit. If every generation reinvents the story too much, might we lose a core, unifying tradition?
That's a very valid point. But consider this. The evolution itself might be a testament to its enduring power. Instead of a fixed event, the resurrection becomes a living idea, constantly reborn to meet the moment's needs.
Yes, I see what you mean. So, it's less about the historical event and more about what the resurrection represents for each community.
Exactly. And when you think about it, whether it's the abrupt disappearance in Mark, the grand display in Matthew, the concrete reality in Luke, or the mystical revelation in John, the central motif is transformation. It's always about a radical shift in understanding who Jesus is.
Absolutely. And that transformation resonates even today, doesn't it? It shows how fluid theological narratives can be, and, how communities adapt myths to reflect deeper truths.
Definitely. It invites us to explore our relationship with the divine through layers of interpretation. Each telling meets the reader at a different level, be it awe, comfort, or challenge.
True. This really opens up a broader conversation about, how sacred texts evolve over time. It's almost like a dialogue between generations, each one adding brushstrokes to a vast canvas.
Yes, exactly. It's like a living artwork in constant dialogue with its audience. John rewrites the resurrection to meet the existential and spiritual crises of his time, and that has, for millennia, shaped how we conceive of divine mystery.
Right. And it definitely prompts us to question, what do we really need from a resurrection story? Is it tangible proof, or is it that inner conviction?
Precisely. And John boldly answers with a call to believe without seeing, a radical invitation to experience faith in its most mystical and transformative sense.
This discussion really brings to light the layers involved in these resurrection narratives. It's rich with symbolism and historical context.
Absolutely. Each gospel opens a window into not just an event, but into the very heart of spirituality and community identity. The evolution from a literal event to a profound mystical revelation speaks volumes about how people find meaning and comfort in turbulent times.
Yes, indeed. And you know, it also offers us a mirror, a way to assess our own journey toward belief, our own search for authenticity in a changing world.
Well said. It's like, each shock of resurrection is reborn with each generation, challenging yet nurturing our understanding of truth, divinity, and our own humanity.
Absolutely. I really appreciate how this narrative not only stands as a theological statement, but also as a dynamic conversation through time. A reminder that our understanding of the divine can evolve with us.
Exactly. And that perhaps is the true power of these texts. They aren't static relics. They are living dialogues prompting us to probe deeper into who we are and who we aspire to be.
Right on. This has been an incredibly rich conversation. It leaves us with much to ponder about the nature of resurrection and the evolution of belief.
Absolutely. Thanks for this deep dive. It's always refreshing to explore these layers and ask, what does this mean for us today?
Indeed. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you enjoyed unraveling these mystical threads as much as we did.